So last week in the competition between myself and Bradley for our locks, it was a race to the bottom. I went 3-0 in week one. I was really feeling myself. Week two, I went 1-2, and then Bradley went 0-3. What do you have to say for yourself about this?
Like, I'm bad at betting. Don't trust me.
I mean, but like
Do not spend your money with my advice, okay?
this is not a betting advice show. We have been clear about this. But not our best. I was really bullish on the Jaguars. I'll give myself that credit. They're plus 3.5. I thought they'd win that game. I'm very low on the Colts this whole year. The Bengals, dude, and I had the right idea about the Rams. The Bengals I was totally off on. I have no idea what the hell is going on with that team. And then, I mean, Bradley, I feel like you would have changed your pick if you knew that Jameis Winston had four fractures in his back.
Might have been good info to go into that pick, but
Thank you for that breaking news Sunday morning.
yeah,
And
really appreciate that.
the Steelers, I mean, Gunner, little white guy, don't know what his last name is, I'm forgetting, but he muffed that punt. That's really why the
Oh
Steelers
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
win that
yeah.
game.
Yep.
And the Commanders, I can't defend that pick
No,
by
it's
you.
pretty indefensible. That was week one goggles. I was like, oh, they're looking pretty feisty, and they're bad. The defense is bad, and Carson Wentz will regress to being Carson Wentz at some point.
At some point, yeah. He might still have a few like 3 touchdown games left in him, but we saw this with the Colts the other year. So Carson Wentz is who we thought
Yeah.
he was. And this week, I'm hoping to get my mojo back, and I'm starting tonight with Thursday Night Football. I'm often bullish on the Steelers against the spread because I feel like Mike Tomlin always puts his team in a position to win, even if their offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL, even if they don't have a very good quarterback at the current moment. And I'm still perplexed as to why Kenny Pickett isn't playing yet. My guess is that Tomlin just doesn't trust the offensive line right now. So, we'll have to see. But I'm concerned about the Browns' defense, especially with Jadeveon Clowney being out tonight, especially with Myles Garrett being a bit beat up. And Mitch Trubisky should be able, I think, to dink and dunk and hopefully be opportunistic against a bit of a porous Browns defense. I was surprised to see that line. I was surprised to see how much Cleveland was favored by. It was 4.5 points at one point. So for me, with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, who's been fine, but not going to be some world beater, I trust the Steelers to get it done with a strong defensive performance. And hopefully Matt Canada feels his ass is on fire a little bit with the terrible offensive game plans that he's been trotting out there. They've had around a little bit over 500 yards in total offense in 2 games, which is bottom 5 in the NFL. And it's just looked bad, right? It's just 2-yard pass here, 4-yard pass here. And some of that you can put on Trubisky. It's all he kind of knew when he was in Chicago. But some of that I really think you can put on Matt Canada now when you saw how the offense looked like that last year with Ben Roethlisberger.
And I think this is I see this as a good pick, but I do definitely agree with you with both contentions about the opposing teams in the sense that with a defensive line that has Myles Garrett, you would think that the Browns through the first 2 weeks would be getting a significant amount of more pressure than they are. But the issue is if it's only Myles Garrett, he's one guy. He can't provide the entire amount of pressure from a front seven, even though he probably is one of, if not the best defensive end in the league. This side of Aaron Donald, and also, if that pressure's not getting home, their corners and their safeties and their linebackers are getting torched. I mean, a Joe Flacco-led offense should probably not be hanging 31 points on this Browns defense, and Flacco probably at this stage in his career probably shouldn't be hanging 400 yards on this defense and not without one single interception either. So I'm extremely suspect of this line favoring the Browns for that very reason. Even though the offense certainly does still look proficient with one of the best dual threat run games in the league with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but for Pittsburgh, I completely agree. I think they're really hamstringing themselves by curtailing most of the offensive strategy to Trubisky's limitations as opposed to the strengths of some of their super athletically gifted receivers. I
That's
mean,
what's crazy. I mean,
they have
how do you
Deontay Johnson and Chase
Chase
Claypool. Yeah,
Claypool?
like two guys who huge catch
Claypool wants
radius.
out. I'm convinced. Why
If
wouldn't you?
I were him, I would.
Claypool has Claypool could be DK Metcalf, although they underutilize him too, so maybe not the best example. But Claypool has insane talent, more talent than Deontay Johnson, and he should be getting utilized way more.
The combination of speed, size, catch radius, strength, like it's just kind of a disservice to them
Yeah.
that it's basically most of most of Trubisky's balls are almost getting thrown behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in not at least trying to do a few game breaking balls either down the sideline over the middle. Like use what you have. Like it doesn't have to be Najee Harris and Trubisky. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, and if the line can't protect Trubisky, then roll him out. Like just roll him out
Right.
a little bit on the boot. Like and I know they do that sometimes, but only for like dink and dunk passes. Try to let some plays develop down the field. And they have Pickens too, who he's getting publicly like mad about this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that they feed these guys a bit more.
And I almost even forgot Pickens is the same way. He's a strong, smart, like super athletic receiver who I think a few times literally was either wide open or overthrown in that game against who did they play again last week?
The Patriots.
Against the Pats. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. Now with Kansas City, I don't even have much to say. What the hell is this line?
Yeah, this is insane. This line could be 16, and I probably wouldn't even. I would almost bat an eyelash potentially.
Do people?
Did the bookies did the house watch
And maybe
either
I'll
Colts
regret
game?
this. Like maybe it's because Michael Pittman seems to be returning. The Indy is at home, and there is like a sense that they're going to rebound from this. But I mean, I don't believe in the Colts. That's why I picked the Jaguars last week. And I feel like Matt Ryan's arm looks like probably the weakest of any starting quarterback in the NFL, even more so than Tua. And because at least Tua has zip on short and intermediate passes.
Love Tua catching that stray right there.
Sorry. But like I just Kansas City's besides the Bills, those are the two best teams in the NFL. I don't think it's close, and I think Kansas City also has a long week that they're leading up to this game, and they're going to beat up on them. That's my sense.
And not for nothing, this is a Chiefs team that carved up a bad defense week 1 against Arizona. And I think Gus Bradley is the defensive coordinator for the Colts right now. So therefore, he is running the most predictable vanilla defense. He's probably going to run cover 3 every single snap against this team. If the Chiefs were going to dice up another middling to bad team, it would be one that is not even trying to be creative on defense. That's why I'm shocked that this line is so low. If anything,
it scares me. I feel like I'm missing something, but what could we possibly be missing?
I don't think there's really anything because I just don't think there's a whole lot of inspiration on either side of the ball for the Colts right now. Yeah. I don't think they're even trying to do things that are particularly inspiring with either side, with either end. I mean, they're not even trying to bring pressure with super athletic guys like Shaq Leonard and Kwity Paye. I mean, Matt Ryan and Michael Pittman can only get you, and Jonathan Taylor with who's not even really getting a whole lot of help from his O-line there, can only do so much. It just seems like kind of a surprising line to think that the Chiefs would only be up by less than a touchdown against this team after 2 weeks.
And that was the same line of the Bengals versus the Jets at home in New York, which I almost took. And that's shocking because the Bengals are 0-2.
Same thing.
And the Jets are
terrible.
1-1. Right. But like, why would that line be the same as Kansas City looking great in Indianapolis?
No, that doesn't really make any sense to me either. And we were talking about this before the show, but like we were both very surprised that A, there was no bounce back from the Bengals last week. And B, honestly, like we were saying, the ownership group in Bengals, they are notorious cheapskates. So like this might not happen. But I think if there was a smart owner and a smart front office, if I'm a team that has Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the offense looks like this, and the offensive line after the expenditures we've made for the offensive line to upgrade it, and we're 0-2 after week 1. Our franchise quarterback had 5 turnovers and then had a similarly uninspiring performance last week. I'm thinking about firing Zach
Well,
Taylor.
I would have never extended him. I mean,
well, no question.
that was a Cinderella run.
Absolutely.
Zach Taylor's offense does not look like the most creative offense in the world, despite the coaching tree that he comes from. It's very much like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow
go do something.
Make crap happen. They really are not. They haven't been good in his tenure in the red zone with like the run game either. And so, I mean, I feel like the issue is that the Bengals owner Mike Brown is a cheapskate. So like that's why Marvin Lewis would stay with the team for so long, is because he didn't want to fire a coach and then pay him when he wasn't working for the organization. So now that Zach Taylor's been extended, my sense is that he could have a terrible performance and keep his job.
But I think any like sane organization, any like non-spendthrift organization, like if the Bengals were to lose to the Jets this Sunday to go down 0-3 this season after making it to the Super Bowl last year, I think at some point your expectations have to meet reality.
Right. And lastly, I am going with Baltimore to win by at least a field goal in New England. Historically, Bill Belichick has struggled with quarterbacks with this amount of athletic prowess and ability to make things happen on their own, because Bill Belichick can craft a game plan better than the best of them. But if he doesn't have the Jimmies and the Joes to keep up with a guy like Lamar Jackson, who's just going to bust open that game plan by being so freakish, then I just don't see them winning this game. I think there's a massive talent gap between these two teams, and John Harbaugh is no slouch either, given his history in New England and against New England. So this one was fairly easy for me.
And talk about, speaking of uninspired offensive and defensive game plans, I just don't even know what's going on with the Patriots right now.
Yeah.
Everything just looks like just kind of barren and vacuous and just like uninspired. There's just no ambition with the offense right now. I don't really see how the pieces fit together. Mac's not looking particularly comfortable. I mean, Nelson Aguilar had a play or two that was like pretty. I think he had a few impressive plays, but that's just not really enough. And
in 2022, Nelson Aguilar should not be your number one receiver.
That's the thing, though, is just in terms of just pure roster construction, it's just very befuddling, and it's not producing like a lot of like It's not producing a lot of like encouraging results so far. And I will say, if the Ravens defense can come back this week with a little bit more discipline and a little bit more coverage chops from some of their linebackers and safeties, and Lamar plays the way that he did against the Dolphins, this team is really good.
Yes. They were over aggressive. They did not cover and account for the speed of Tyreek Hill.
They got burned a few times. It was mostly like honestly coverage lapses. It wasn't like they were looking, the whole defense roster wide looked bad.
Yeah.
They got a few 2 plays that just completely torched them.
And I think they'll be mad about that. So
for sure.
Taking the Baltimore Ravens in New England to win by at least a field goal. Now, Bradley, time to come back from your hole.
Picks from the graveyard, picks from the crypt.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we can get Bradley on camera, but we're
my fear is that it's going to turn around while I'm on camera.
We'll fix this camera situation.
Yeah, we will fix it for
week.
next week. Apologies, folks, but my first one is I'm taking the Packers +1 over the Bucks. This is my 3rd week in a row picking against the Bucks. I'm not doing this on purpose. I don't have an axe to grind. I just have coincidentally had 3 weeks
no Mike
in a row.
Evans.
Yeah, I'm just thinking no Mike Evans due to the suspension. I'm now regaining my confidence every year with the Packers that I do after either like a middling week 1 or few weeks in the early season. I kind of think Rodgers and this team, whether they intend to do so or not, usually take the first like 2 to 4 weeks as essentially a extended preseason to kind of get their bearings and see what they have.
Yeah.
I was super, super encouraged with Rodgers regaining the connection with Lazard in the end zone. I thought the tag team running game of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon looked phenomenal. I was not expecting them, even of course against a relatively lackluster Bears defense, but they weren't running the ball like that week one. And I just think they're getting into their bag a little bit more, using all the tools at their disposal. I trust LaFleur and the coaching staff to be creative on offense. And I just think they're going to keep it close, and I definitely could see them kind of having a statement win early on, winning this game against the Bucks.
And the
So
Bucks have not looked good in the first 2 weeks. Like
no, and
the
it's been a
defense has looked
slog.
pretty good.
Of course, I mean the linebacking core is
Freaks.
fantastic
Yeah.
in the for the Bucks. Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Antoine Winfield at the safety position, but
Devin White is
Devin
like
White,
one of my
another
favorite players in
one of
the
my
NFL.
another great piece on the defense. But like you said, I agree. The offense has not looked super inspired, but it's also as a result because of what Brady kind of has to work with right now. A lot of offense is running through in terms of the air game. Scotty Miller and Brashad Perryman. Like
Yeah.
that's not exactly what you want or what this team is expecting to be operating under. So I just think this could be a game where the Packers could kind of get back into their usual form that I'm expecting from them. My second pick I'm taking the Titans plus a 1.5 over the Raiders
At home.
at home. Despite the Titans definitely getting outclassed by the Bills in more ways than one. I mean, to the point where Mike Vrabel took Ryan Tannehill out of the game to give Malik Willis some run. Which I don't think was a bad thing. They were down literally almost 5 touchdowns, so I get it. I just think this is going to be a much easier game for the Titans. I'm not convinced that just because they got destroyed by the Bills, who are as of now looking like literally the best team in the league, that they're going to come back and not have I don't believe they're going to have a similar showing playing the Raiders. So I just think like if Henry can get in a little bit more of a groove, I thought Traylon Burks actually had a few kind of nice plays kind of schematically designed for him. I don't think the defense is going to be as bad against the Raiders offense, even with Devontae Adams and the Derek Carr connection. I just could see them keeping this one close and getting a victory.
And here's another point for your favor. Mike Vrabel might be a bit familiar with the
of course,
with
yeah,
the offense by Josh
absolutely,
McDaniels.
absolutely, and so I just think that one could be a sneaky close game potentially. Then my final pick, this is probably my riskiest one, honestly.
Yeah.
Is I'm taking the Dolphins plus 5.5 over the Bills. After the Bills spanked the Titans 41-7, this might not be the most rational or safest pick, but I'm 2 weeks in. I am just drinking the Mike McDaniel Kool-Aid.
I love him.
I thought I was immediately going to rue what I said about week one when they were down heavy to the Ravens. And the ability to continue to throw the kitchen sink at them and keep running these ambitious plays and these smart plays and using the personnel he's been using and using it, using them to their greatest advantage. I'm completely in. I just think that there is a chance that Mike McDaniel may have like a literally like career-defining victory this week, and might be if there's going to be a new coach to kind of try and solve a really amazingly well-coached and hugely talented Bills defense that is extremely hard to score on. It might be him. I obviously could be wrong if they literally get the doors blown off them.
It's
but
in Miami, right? And people,
yes.
You could see the Bills maybe feeling themselves a little bit. It's a fun city to party in. That's where Miami catches people off guard.
Yes,
honestly,
I'm hoping. Yeah, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, go out in Miami.
Yeah,
have
right?
a great time.
Have the time of your life.
Yeah, go to some clubs. Go to the beach. Yeah.
But for like in terms of, and sometimes I like to look at these storylines. I know it's a bit shock jockey or like I don't know, talking head NFL-ish, but Miami's going to be looking at the fact that they're 5.5-point dogs despite being undefeated at home.
Yeah,
they're going to be pissed about that.
I think I can see that too. I think some of these lines, like, it's interesting that some of them aren't necessarily either conforming to record or conforming to narrative. Like, I'm kind of interested that some of them are not completely adhering to what I'd fully expect. Like if this line based on the first 3 weeks for the Dolphins was like +2.5 or even +2 or something, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
I could just see this game being kind of a slugfest, given how both of these offenses have looked in the past 2 weeks.
All right. Well, that's that. We have our three locks for the weekend, and I almost swapped out the Pittsburgh game because I'm a little nervous about Trubisky and Matt Canada on the offensive side of the ball, and of course that offensive line with the Bengals at the Jets. But given I'm just pissed at the Bengals for their performance last week.
It's actually unbearable to watch.
I could not. I mean, and Burrow's doing all he can, but he can't even set up these plays, and I don't think the offense is looks that good in terms of the way that they're scheming for this, and it's not like that defense in Dallas is anything to write home about.
No, I mean, of course you have Micah Parsons on the edge, and like that's going to give you some fits, but not much else.
I mean, Diggs can be good as a ball hawk, but he's a bit feast or famine because he can get so aggressive.
And if he's not, that's fair in the sense of if he's not jumping routes to get picks, it's not super. He's not super formidable outside of that in terms of just man or zone coverage. It's really the ball production that is his bread and butter. No, but I totally agree, especially thinking about the investment in the offensive line, thinking about the talent at skill positions. It's just kind of unacceptable for the offense to look like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after spending money on Ted Karras and Alex Cappa and La'el Collins in the offseason to kind of not necessarily become a blue chip offensive line, but literally just to upgrade the positions from like a C- to a B+, so to speak, or a C to a B, for them to still be giving up this much pressure. I think Burrow was sacked either it was 12 or 16 times, something unbelievable for the first 2 weeks. He'd be on track to break the single season sack record, I think, again.